Welcombe Community Radio in the heart of Shakespeare country, for the community, by the community, in the community.
Nice.
So we're going to be speaking to Rebecca Brewster, who is a spiritual healer based in this area, and she's going to talk to us about the amazing work she does and how it can help bring about positive changes in people's health and overall state of mind, body and emotions. So welcome, Rebecca. Thank you for being here. Wonderful to have you today. Gosh, there's just so much to talk about because you and I have met and talked before this, of course, but I just want to say to begin with, many people obviously are aware of the idea of healing, and of course the ancient civilizations knew how to heal themselves and one another. But can you tell us what spiritual healing involves and how does it help people, you know, in your own words, in your own experience?
Well, it's it's a natural form of healing. I suppose a spiritual healer or a healer is really just a conduit for the flow of life force energy, and that's how I sort of explain it to clients. It's non-invasive, it's very relaxing, and it's rejuvenating on every level. It's just the most natural form of healing you can experience, really. And the word spiritual is, sometimes puts people off. I would just really harness the word natural, because we're really only tapping into the natural forces of life energy. It's all around us. It's what makes us breathe. It's what makes the trees grow. It's just it's about as sort of natural and non-evasive as any form of healing, really.
So something really gentle and nurturing for somebody to experience, and I have experienced it, and it's lovely. Just a question that I know people might be interested to know the answer to is, and you've probably partly answered it really, but it's not particularly linked with any religious belief, is it? Really?
No.
It's
not.
It's totally non-denominational.
If you think of your body's most innate flow of life force, we're harnessing, really, when we're healing, we're harnessing a greater magnitude of that. It's a universal life energy, force of energy.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. And obviously, I presume anyone can benefit from this. I mean, there aren't any exceptions, any particular health issues that you wouldn't feel people
There are no particular exceptions, although working as a healer, you have to, there's a sort of, we work certainly with the Healing Trust, we have quite a long sort of code of conduct that we work with, and there are certain people, something to do with safeguarding, especially with children. We'd only heal with the parents' permission, or if the child had been unwell, then we'd need some medical evidence and backup from their practitioner that it was okay to heal them. But also people suffering from serious mental health issues, we're talking schizophrenics, we would need sort of that's probably the only area we can't go into without a health practitioner being present.
Right. Yes.
So anyone can benefit.
That's
it's
wonderful.
A completely universal thing.
Yes. And I know, well, again, you've answered this really, the energy is just a universal energy. So it's coming from the universe or the divine or whatever people tune into, really, I suppose.
There are so many forms of healing that are out there and have brackets and names, Reiki, prana healing, the list goes on. The essential thing is what you're harnessing is your as an individual healer, you're going into a space that's a very centered space. You're tuning in to the universal life energies, and you're really a conduit, a channel for that.
Yes.
What happens during the healing is nothing to do with the healer.
No.
You're just simply channeling that life force.
And you say it's nothing to do with the healer, and I'm presuming that it therefore doesn't have any kind of negative effect on you, but you obviously feel effects from the person you're healing.
Yeah, as a healer, you need to be in balance, and you need to basically, we call it attunement before you're healing. But during the healing, really, the less ego and the less personality that's involved in it, you're harnessing a life force energy. That energy is transferred to the person you're working with, and how that person's innate intelligence harnesses the healing force is down to the individual.
Yes.
It's absolutely, it's not governed by the healer. as simple.
It seems such a lovely and simple way to enable people to help themselves, and obviously people can do this for themselves, but because everybody has that ability, don't they? Really, we were designed
actually
that way.
Anybody could train in healing, but it's a personal journey as well, and it's ongoing. But it's
and you as a healer, I mean, you don't have to be a healer presumably, but you as a healer can help heal yourself.
Oh, that's an essential part of it.
Yes,
and it's an ongoing journey.
Yes,
and none of us are ever at the end point.
No.
So,
and that applies to a lot of other therapies, different therapies that we come across. So basically, let's see, what else was I going to ask? It's not, we've talked about this, it's not negative or draining, and therefore it's I'm sure you probably feel quite empowered or do you feel quite positive after you've done it? Because I know when I'm teaching yoga, it gives me an uplifting feeling, an uplifting energy. Does it give you a lovely uplifting energy at the end, or does that vary?
Yeah, I'm just, it's hard to say really. I'm so not involved with it on a personal level or an emotional level. I'm just literally, I'm an observer.
Yes.
I would say that I'm observing.
Yes.
And certain healers don't feel anything during a healing. I feel a lot. I pick up a lot. I don't share that with the client. I just assimilate it. I write my notes, and then I see how the patient or the client is the next time I see them, and then I sort of, I allow it to sink in. And then see the results the next time I see the client.
And
really.
each person will vary according to whether they need maybe just one session or a numerous collection of sessions, or do you suggest more than one?
If a person is coming to me and wanting to have healing, then I always suggest a series of treatments, because the healing is accumulative and it's such a gentle thing normally, and it's often that a client will go away and have suddenly a childhood memory come up, and it will be significant, and then they'll think, well, that's linked with the pain that I was having, and I remember having the pain that I had in childhood, having it now, and there's a link, and they become emotionally aware. So it's a journey for them as well. And it's empowering. That's the main important thing, is I'm not the one in charge. It's at the client's pace, and they're the ones who take the journey themselves. I'm simply facilitating.
So once they're aware of some emotional issue from the past, they're then able to, if they know how, or maybe with someone's guidance, to release that issue and let it go completely.
And we work with it, and there's many ways we can work with it. So that's when spiritual healing goes into another slight realm. Certainly personally for me, I might involve visualization. I might suggest they go away and do a little bit of work, maybe write some feelings down, or there's so many different ways. I mean, there's so many different ways to facilitate healing. But the interesting thing is that the act of healing often begins a journey for the individual, and it's more, I mean, I've touch wood, it's always been empowering, and they become whole again.
Yes, that must be wonderful. Well, obviously wonderful for the people involved, and yes, you actually work with quite a lot of people. You presumably work with people one-to-one, but do you also work with groups of people as well?
Well, the wonderful thing about the Healing Trust actually is that, and I'm sure this is the same for many other healing organisations, is that we do volunteer drop-ins. So we have healing groups. There's one in Solihull. We're about to set one up in Lifeways in Stratford, where a group of healers will come together, and they'll just offer healing for donation only. So it's open to anybody. It's not a costly thing. So we do, and obviously there'll be a meditation before and after the healing group. So
that sounds amazing.
Yeah,
perfect for a lot of people. Yes.
Yeah.
Now I have a lot of other things to chat with Rebecca about, but I think it might be quite interesting at this point to talk a bit about some of the people or one of the people to begin with, who has been involved in controlled medical studies which have been conducted to evaluate the effectiveness of spiritual healing. And one of those people is Sandy Edwards. So I'm going to ask Rebecca, could you tell us a little bit about Sandy Edwards and what she's doing or has been doing, please?
Well, this went on some time ago, actually, and Sandy Edwards is now a fellow of the Healing Trust as well, and she's an extraordinary healer and so completely down to earth. She I think on completing her panel was enthused about trying to get some funding to set up a healing group near Birmingham, which she did, and Dr. Singh basically referred one of his patients to her for healing. What Sandy didn't realise was that this doctor was working at Birmingham Hospital and had a huge amount of patients suffering from IBS and IBD, which I think he was really sort of struggling to heal. It's not an easy thing to work with, and the medical profession really does struggle to cure these diseases, and it's a life-limiting experience for anybody who's suffering from them. Anyway, the client or the patient that Sandy was seeing really benefited from the healing at the healing group at the healing centre, and I think this led her to get in contact with the specialist that sent this client, and to cut a long story short, Sandy was then brought into the NHS remarkably, and this is really remarkable work, to sort of work alongside the doctor with his clinic.
Fantastic.
And what sort of started to happen was that these clients who were going in and sort of thinking, well, sort of obviously rolling their eyes at the idea of healing, but nonetheless accepted it, and they began to see remarkable results. And so, to cut a long story short, what then transpired was that Sandy and Dr. Singh were able to put together some medical trials, and this happened at the Birmingham University, and the trials. At the end of the trials, which were long, and this went on for ages and ages and ages, a lot of work that Sandy was doing alongside other healers in the hospital, proved without doubt, and it's all in her book, Healing in the Hospital, that the healing and that they were giving had remarkable, life-changing, positive results, both for IBS and IBD, and these are proven medical facts. So it's been, the work, but the amount of work, that's such a short snippet of the amount of incredible work, determination, funding, and getting recognition that Sandy has done. And she's put it all in this amazing book, which anybody can get hold of on Amazon.
What was the book called again?
Healing in Hospital.
Healing in Hospital, by Sandy Edwards.
Yeah. A remarkable woman. Really extraordinary individual.
And she's still carrying on with all this work, as well as her own healing. It's really good to hear things like that, isn't it? Because there is always this question of it's not exactly an either or, but it does seem to be either natural complementary forms of being helped or the orthodox method, and
no, they have to work together.
They've got to work together. Yes.
I know we're going to talk about something else that's fantastic that's happening as well, but the bottom line is so much scientific evidence has now coming to light with regards to natural forms of healing and how they can have really positive, life-changing effects on individuals who are suffering from a myriad of diseases, and it's just about time, the medical profession and the NHS brought on board these complementary therapies, especially healing, in my view. Having worked in various different forms of complementary therapy, healing for me, I feel, is the most powerful, long-lasting, beneficial for everyone.
Well, so it encompasses everything that's needed, doesn't it, really? Because you don't have to be specific about anything.
To frame it, it works with an intelligence that we don't understand. We are simply facilitating it. It works with the body's highest intelligence that our mind can't get its head round, and therefore it's something that we just need to continue learning and understanding, really.
And when you think, the ancient civilizations were using these forms of healing many, many years ago, and yet people think of it as something new, but it's not, is it? It's coming back. It's always been there.
And interestingly, it's intrinsically in our bodies. We know, and the bodies know as well. So,
yes. It's just fascinating, and I'm so pleased to hear about all this wonderful work that's going on, that's creating proof, because so many people actually want proof, and they're getting it now. So that's truly remarkable, and thank you for that. And I know we're going to talk about somebody else also in a little while, so I'll come to that in just a few moments. So we've talked a bit about the healing you do and the fact you work with individuals and groups, and I wondered actually if it might be interesting for people to know what to expect if they've never had any healing and they came to you for a one-to-one session. What would they expect, to happen? What would actually happen?
Okay, so I mean, just to talk you through how a session goes, it's I'd greet a client, they'd sit down on a chair opposite me, I'd have a brief discussion with them about what's brought them to me, and then I would explain the healing act. Now, the healing act can either be done with the individual sat on a chair, or it can be done with them lying down on a couch. I prefer couch healing because the client can completely and utterly relax, and if they need to remain in the healing throughout or after following the healing act, then they can just lie on the couch and stay there. It's non-invasive. The most a client will feel is me resting my hands on their feet or on their shoulders at the end and the beginning of the healing. I'm working on the energy of the body that is not close to the physical body. I'm working on the other elements of energy around the body. And again, this goes back to my childhood. There's a lot of people who would say, oh, that's an absolute load of rubbish. These energy centres don't exist. There's no light around the body, etc., etc. But I spent most of my childhood quite confused because I kept seeing lights around people and I didn't understand what they were because nobody talked about them. No. So I promptly shut all of that perception and ability to see down, and that only really reawakened in my 20s. So I'm working on the energy of the body that is really, as far as I'm aware, my beliefs control the body. So acupuncturists work on the sort of the closer etheric meridian lines of the body. I'm working on the energy that is further out from the body, and there's definitely different energy circles around the body, the mental, emotional, spiritual elements, the etheric fields, the astral body. I won't go into too much detail, but the client doesn't feel a lot, but the effects are quite profound.
Yes.
So that's what I'm working on. And I will talk to clients about that. And sometimes they feel physical sensations. If I'm working on the throat, they'll swallow. If I'm working on the stomach area and their stomach's turning over, it'll calm. Often if people have come to me and they've got a slight headache, the headache will clear during the healing. So again, they won't be aware of any physical touch, but the work's going on. And again, it's not me that's facilitating, I'm facilitating it, but it's not me that's controlling it. It's their body's intelligence, their body's energy fields that are harnessing that and doing what is appropriate for that individual. So.
And really, I mean, energy is all around us. Energy is in everything, isn't it? So you can't, I feel it's you can't, how can you deny there's energy? It's there. And we wouldn't be alive if we didn't have this energy in us. And people call it prana.
To coin something that I picked up on a film I know we're going to talk about, but for those that have experienced it, no explanation is required.
That is absolutely
so that's
true.
it. Yeah.
Wonderful. Peter, did you want to add something? No, he's just looking at me with this curious look on his face, so I thought he was going to add something at that point.
I'm just looking for the signs.
Okay, no, not yet. But actually, I'd like to also ask you, and I think listeners would be interested to know, what led you to become a spiritual healer in a brief way, because I'm sure there were a long series of things that probably led to that.
Well, so as I said, in my childhood, I definitely sensed a lot of things. And then I think when I left university, I was lost because I'd done everything I'd aspired to do, or I'd reached everyone else's aspirations for me, let's put it that way. And I became very depressed because basically I wasn't on my life path. I was on somebody else's life path and it wasn't mine. So I spent quite a lot of time trying to find out
Yes, I know that feeling. I know what you mean. And once people find it, it's really special, because then you are much more in tune with everything you're doing, and really you're in tune with your completely correct pathway in life, your karma, your dharma, whatever people want to call it. Obviously, we're going to talk about somebody else in just a minute. But just at this point, although we'll be talking more a little bit with you anyway afterwards, but just at this point, I'm going to ask if you could give clients, or prospective, if you want to call them clients, or people who come to you, some sort of way of contacting you. Is there a way that they can contact you if they want to come and see you or find out more?
So there's Lifeways in Stratford upon Avon. They have my details, and so does the Shipston Therapy Centre in Shipston Tower. Right. So I work from both clinics.
And they can just ask for you, Rebecca Brewster.
Yeah.
Now, I want to introduce the name Deena Barnett, because you've told me a lot about her, and I've been looking into what she's been doing, and I'm going to let you talk about Deena Barnett and all the amazing work she's doing to help promote the awareness of healing and linking it up with the medical profession. So please tell us about Deena Barnett.
Well, it's a bizarre set of coincidences, really. This is only a short sort of kind of known relationship, but I ended up hooking up with Deena about sort of a week ago. I was sort of researching some of the stuff Sandy was doing, and noticed Deena's film was linked on some of the Google searches that I was doing. Promptly searched this film, the frontiers, a new frontier in medicine, spiritual healing, that Deena's putting together, this extraordinary film, which she's desperately trying to get more and more funding for, so she can finalise this, because it's not just Europe she's looking at. It's sort of an international film that she's researching healers across the globe, basically, and along with scientific research, again, to give it a scientific base, in the profound effects of healing. And she's been speaking with some extraordinary people, extraordinary healers across the globe. So I know that she's currently trying to promote the film as well. She'll be going to Birmingham to the NEC this weekend, to the Mind, Body, Spirit show. So she's there at 3:00, I think, on
Is that tomorrow?
Saturday. Yeah. So, but anyone can Google this film. If they just Google Deena Barnett, all of her details will come up. And it's a personal journey for her, the film, basically based on the experiences that she had when her father was receiving some healing, and he was, to her sort of way of thinking, obviously he was a cynic and an atheist, didn't believe in anything particularly spiritual, but sort of, I think it was her referral or suggestion that he receive some healing, and the benefits that he received emotionally, as well as physically, I think, led her to want to understand more herself. And she's a very grounded, down-to-earth individual. I spoke to her some length a while ago, and she's trying to understand it as well herself. But what she's uncovered, along with Sandy Edwards, who's also in the film, is that there is so much scientific research to back up this healing. And why isn't it part of the NHS? And why isn't it part of normal medical establishments, and you know, obviously there's many reasons for that you can surmise, but her work, you know, this film is so important, so it can take the whole idea of spiritual healing or healing to a global audience, and it's desperately trying to get more funding for it. So again, I would encourage anyone who's interested to please Google her, go online and try and donate. Even the smallest donation would be welcomed.
Yes, I've also been looking her up, and I've even contacted her myself, so I might well meet up with her if and when I can. And the name is spelled Dena, and the surname Barnett, Barnett. So do look up Deena Barnett, the film Spiritual Healing, A New Frontier in Medicine, and it's all about the intersection of healing and medicine. And something she mentioned is that she hopes the film can help shift the current medical model from one of symptom management and surviving to one of true wellness and thriving through the healthy influence of spiritual healing, and obviously combining that together with the traditional forms of medication.
Yes, absolutely.
But it's wonderful to know so many people are actually studying this and going into it and finding out about the actual scientific and medical research, because then people have the proof, as you say.
I think people need the proof. I
Yes.
think the word spiritual puts everyone off, and I'm nervous of using it. So that's why I prefer to call it natural healing.
Yes.
But yeah, the work that Deena's done, it's just a huge amount of work so far. Really amazing.
Well, long may that continue, and I really hope I meet her as soon as possible. So going back to, we talked about this a little while ago when I first met you, the work you do, obviously you can do it anywhere. And I wondered if you had an ideal place in your mind, you know, just even if it's not practically, but just thinking about this idea of somewhere you could go, and it may be this country or maybe another country or maybe a particular place or an area where you feel people need some specific help with healing. Do you think there's anywhere that you would perhaps choose if you had the chance to have 3 months or more somewhere and do some amazing healing work that you do?
In terms of transforming people to a
Yes.
positive space, I'd like to spend some time in the White House.
Oh, wonderful. I love that answer.
And then I'd probably spend a whole chunk of time in Russia.
Yes.
And I think if we could sort those two countries out, then probably globally we'd be in a better space. But essentially, you know, if I was going to really spend time with healing,
Well, that sounds a good start.
I'd rather put my energy into children,
Right.
because they're the
Yes.
up and coming next generation.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
And having said that, do you think healers are going into schools anywhere, or is that something that hasn't happened yet?
Do you know, I think on some level that a lot of the teachers that go into the teaching profession because they're genuine nurturers. So they're healing
Yes,
on some level
absolutely,
anyway.
they
I
are.
mean, teaching is a vocation, isn't it?
It definitely is.
And having, you know, children at the age of 11 and 14, the joyous times are those when they're in their younger years at school, and the teachers, the primary school teachers, I just think they're wonderful. But anyway, yeah.
I used to be one.
Yeah. Well,
so
there
did
you go.
Peter, didn't you?
So-
And yes, you have to be very nurturing, very patient. But yes, there are huge rewards. And fortunately, when I was teaching in the latter part of maybe the last 10 years of my teaching time, I remember being able to, because I was also training in the yoga and the personal development and all the sort of spiritual side of things that I've trained in and worked in, I was able to bring that in, and I used to do some calming effects and effective things with the children, and you know, they didn't realize they were having a kind of a mini meditation or a little bit of a relaxation, but they liked it and they enjoyed it, and they behaved in a very different way afterwards. So that sort of thing. I mean, there are people taking yoga into schools, and I've done that myself.
Yeah. Healing and meditation in schools now, that's going to be the next thing.
Definitely.
It's so important
Yes,
to bring that
absolutely.
mindfulness in, I think. It's really key.
Well, you know what? We could go on talking for at least another hour, I know, but I just need to start summing things up now because of the time, and thinking about Peter's just Oh, he's just looking for something. It's all right. Oh, yes, there's a sheet of paper here I'm going to be using. Thank you, Peter. I'll get that ready. So today we've talked with Rebecca, which has been absolutely amazing and totally wonderful to hear all the work that you're doing, Rebecca, and all the work that other healers are doing, whatever form of healing it might be. And also wonderful to know that people like Sandy Edwards and Deena Barnett are doing this incredible research. So please, listeners, do look up those names and do look up what's going on. If anybody wishes to go to the Mind, Body, Spirit exhibition, I know it's on today, Saturday and Sunday at the NEC, and I believe Deena is going to be there showing her film.
At 3 p.m, yeah.
So wonderful. And if Deena, if you're listening, thank you for listening, and hopefully we might get the chance to meet you or at least speak to you fairly soon. Good luck with all you're doing, and I really sincerely hope that you raise the funds you need for helping to promote this film worldwide, because it's such an important thing to do. And I wonder if perhaps modern medicine will eventually go through dramatic changes, and maybe we'll all come full circle and return more to being able to heal ourselves and heal one another through healing, and also combining that with the orthodox methods that are available, and that way bringing about the best of all that's available for each individual. And just think how much easier and cheaper it would be, and far less traumatic for everybody, if people were able to tune into healing and do more healing for themselves or receive healing. But of course, combining that in many cases with the medical profession would be a wonderful combination. And as we said earlier, we all have the ability to heal ourselves. It's a matter of tuning into this ancient art once again. So Louise Hay, of course, covers a lot of this in her book, You Can Heal Your Life. There's many other people who have written incredible books, and there's one, I have it here sitting near me, called The Dynamic Laws of Healing by Catherine Ponder. That's Catherine with a C, Ponder. That's a wonderful book to look at. So remember to remain and maintain a positive attitude if you can, in order to help yourself, because what you think and how you act and react in life also has a real strong effect on how you feel and how your life goes and how each day goes. I need to share some other information with you because we are coming to the end, but I just want to say a huge thank you once again, Rebecca, for coming in,
Pleasure.
Talking to us today, and maybe we'll get you back again sometime. But please do feel that you can contact Rebecca at either Lifeways, or that's the one in Stratford upon Avon, Lifeways Therapy Centre, or the Therapy Centre in Shipston on Stour.